Hello and welcome to Cinema Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about the 1995 film Casper. This is a personal favorite for me. I grew up with it on VHS and it was one of my favorite movies as a child. So before I begin, please give this video a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content, and let's go right into the positives. The first positive that I have with the film is that the cast is great in this. In particular, the character of Kerrigan, the dad played by Bill Pullman, as well as the three uncles of Casper. The character of Kerrigan is played very well just by her attitude and how she treats those around her, as well as her attitude towards certain situations and certain inconveniences, as well as her sense of entitlement. The character of Dr. Harvey, played by Bill Pullman, is great because of how well Bill Pullman is able to portray this character of a dad trying to be understanding as well as sympathetic towards his daughter and their living situation at the moment. You can just tell that in a lot of his scenes and small gestures and mannerisms, and how he's able to invoke and portray that role of a fatherly figure, as well as the uncles in this. As a child, I remember being very entertained with these characters just because of how loud and goofy and obnoxious they were.
You guys are disgusting, obnoxious creeps.
Thank you!
And how much fun the voice actors clearly had with these roles. It shows off screen. Leading right into my next positive of this film, the cameos in it that honestly are very random at some points, with actors such as Dan Aykroyd, Clint Eastwood, and Mel Gibson. These were a lot of actors that growing up I had no idea who they were. And then after growing up and rewatching this recently, being able to laugh at just how random these cameos are and wondering how in the world did they get these actors to sign up for such a small role in this movie. Next point I'm going to give the film is the comedy. And rewatching it, I noticed there's a whole lot of visual as well as physical comedy between the ghost and the humans in the film, and it works very well in how they interact and a bunch of fun moments that they have. And furthermore, there's a lot of comedy in here for both adults and children. And rewatching, I noticed there was a bunch of jokes that went over my head as a child that I finally get now that I'm older. And I think it's pretty good when a movie can cater to both the children and the adults and give both audiences something to laugh at, and people who grew up with this movie when they were a child, like I did, something new to laugh at as they get older. Furthermore, the atmosphere of the home that they're in is just spot on for the type of movie that it is. The whole home just invokes a sense of Halloween with its hidden passageways and hidden doors and lots of secrets within the walls. Also, I really enjoy the friendship that blossoms between Casper and the character of Kat, and how it's portrayed not necessarily directly, but how it's showed in gestures, and how both characters do these small acts of kindness throughout the film to make the other person happy and to ensure their happiness within their relationship. And so you can really tell the affection they have for one another based on their actions. As the saying goes, actions always speak louder than words. Another positive of this film is the musical score as well as the sound design. Now, the musical score is so great because there's so many moments where it's upbeat and adventurous and basically fills you with wonder, and then in the somber moments it literally invokes a strong emotional sense of just sadness and somberness, which really fits with a lot of its calmer scenes that it has. Lead me right into my next point of how I really enjoy the message that this film invokes. The message of basically coping with death and coping with the loss of ones we love. I appreciate how it's very subtle in that sense. It's not necessarily beating you over the head with it throughout the entire runtime, but it just sprinkles little pieces of it throughout, and being able to let go and being able to go on with life and not having any necessarily unfinished business, which is something I was very surprised with, considering the fact that this is a children's film, and I can't really think of any other film off the top of my head that dealt with death in that type of manner and actually confronted the subject. Now onto the mixed aspects that I have. Like I said, all of the characters in this are great except for one character, and that's being the character of Dibs, that seems a little overacted in some aspects. He has a lot of great lines and a lot of funny scenes, but sometimes he's the only one who feels like he's going too over the top in some of his reactions to certain situations. And then the second and last mixed aspect that I have is the ending. I felt that it was really good, and I feel like in any other movie that the movie would have ended right after the final confrontation. but this one doesn't. It goes on to the final dance and gives the story closure, because the story, of course, is not about the conflict between the human characters. It's really more of a conflict within, if you will, of coping with the loss of Kat's mother and Dr. Harvey's wife. However, by the time the film ends, I can't help but feel a little bit lost and wondering, where do our characters go from here? Do they stay at the Whitstaff Manor? Do they move on and settle down somewhere else? That may be just a personal opinion for me, but I feel like there's no finality. All of the stories are concluded fairly well. Negatives: some effects have aged worse than others, and that's kind of a given the fact that this film came out in 1995. Additional negative that I have is the fact that there's an inconsistency on how the ghost can interact with physical objects and other people. In some scenes, Casper, for instance, can go through walls and put his hand through Kat's hand, but in other scenes he's able to pull her along or is crushed by boxes or a suitcase. And so there's a whole lot of inconsistencies in that manner, which as a child, of course, you don't never really notice or pay attention to. And I didn't notice until someone pointed that out to me a couple years back. And for my final negative, some plot points come out of nowhere. In the middle of the film, there is a machine that comes into play into the climax. However, it feels like it's dropped out of nowhere, and it's very conveniently placed in the article where our characters are sitting. So I feel like there could have been more build up to that machine, or more hints to the fact that it even existed, and given a better payoff. But overall, I really enjoyed this film. Like I said, I grew up with it, so there's a big nostalgia factor in that for me. But if you're a fan of 90s films, such as like Addams Family, then I can see you enjoying this film. So if you haven't seen it, give it a chance this Halloween. Watch it with kids, nephews, nieces, whoever. So with that said, I thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this movie. Let me know your experience with it. Did you grow up with it like I did, or did you see it later on in life with family and friends? And I thank you very much for watching. God bless.
Who you gonna call? Someone else.